All right, today we're going to dive into something fascinating and, honestly, a little bit scary. We're going to look at how the one thing we all trust to keep us safe, our own logic, can actually be turned into a weapon used against us.
So let me just ask you this right out of the gate. What if your greatest strength, that sharp, logical mind you're so proud of, is also your biggest weakness? I know, it sounds like a paradox, right? But stick with me because that's exactly what we're digging into today.
This brings us to a concept called the rationality trap. We're all taught the same thing. Be logical. Analyze the data, weigh the pros and cons, and you'll make the right choice. But what happens when that very system, that logical process, gets hijacked? What if it's used to build a cage around you? A cage that you lock from the inside?
Yeah, there's actually a name for this trap. It's called rationalization. And look, this isn't just about making a bad decision. It's way more subtle. It's when your own brain starts using what looks like solid facts and perfect logic to convince you to give up, to abandon what you truly believe in. It's what makes surrender feel like the only smart move.
And to really see how this works, we're going to go back in time. We're going to break down this incredible case study of psychological warfare right out of the book of Isaiah. We're going to watch an enemy general lay siege to a city, not with soldiers and swords, but with pure, weaponized logic designed to crush a whole nation's will to even try.
Okay, so here's the first move. The first attack isn't against the city walls. It's against the mind. This is what we'll call the resource attack, and it's all about turning your own biology against you.
This whole thing works because of something called resource depletion. Think about it. When you're just completely exhausted, you're out of energy, you're stressed about money, you have no patience left, your brain just switches into survival mode. And when you're in that mode, big ideas like faith or long-term vision, they just feel like a luxury you can't afford. The only logical thing to do seems to be whatever gives you rest right now, and that's usually surrender.
This is precisely the strategy that General used. He didn't even try to storm the gates. Nope, he went straight for their water supply. He knew that if he could create what we'd call resource anxiety, that deep panic over a basic survival need, he could wear them down mentally, he could make surrender seem like the most logical option before a single arrow even flew.
So here's a huge takeaway for all of us. If you ever catch yourself using logic to talk yourself into quitting just because you're too tired, you need to stop. You might not be thinking as clearly as you believe. You might actually be under a resource attack, where that logic you're using, it's really just your exhaustion talking.
All right, so first he attacks their biology. Next, he goes after their history. This brings us to the second tactic, the evidence trap. This is where someone uses your own past against you to try and destroy your future.
This works because of a logical trick called the inductive fallacy. It's so powerful because it feels so, well, logical. It's basically when someone takes all your past failures, lines them up, and says, see this pattern? Based on all this data, a different result next time isn't just unlikely, it's statistically impossible. You'd have to be delusional to think otherwise.
And that is exactly what the general did. He gets up on the wall and just lays out this brutal, logical argument. He lists one by one every other nation whose gods couldn't save them. The evidence was overwhelming. The pattern was right there for everyone to see. He was basically proving, with data, that they had a 0% chance of making it. That hope itself was irrational.
So how do you fight that? Well, the antidote is understanding something called a black swan event. A black swan is that total outlier, that one in a million thing that all the past data could never predict. So in this light, faith isn't about being dumb and ignoring the evidence. It's about having the capacity to believe in an outcome that the spreadsheets and statistics just can't account for.
Okay, this third attack, this is maybe the most dangerous, the most insidious one of all. It's not about your resources or your history. It's an attack on who you are. It takes your virtues, the best things about you, and twists them into your biggest flaws.
And we have a modern word for this, you've definitely heard it, gaslighting. It's when someone takes something that is objectively true and reframes it so cleverly that you start to doubt yourself. You question your own memory, your own judgment, even whether you're a good person.
And here's exactly how the general did it. See, the king had done something really good, right? He purified the nation's worship, gotten rid of all the idols. But the general takes that act of discipline, that virtue, and he twists it. He reframes it to the people and says, hey, you know why you're suffering? It's because your king offended God by tearing down those altars. He literally turned the king's goodness into the supposed cause of all their pain.
This really gets to the heart of how devastating this is. It's a direct attack on your identity.
It's using logic to try and convince you that the best things you've ever done were actually your biggest mistakes. So wow, you're getting hit from all sides, right? An attack on your body, an attack on your past, and an attack on your very identity. How in the world do you fight back against that kind all-out logical assault? Well, the answer is pretty profound, and it's not what you'd expect.
The king gives one simple command, and it's brilliant. He just says, do not answer him. That's it, not a single word. He doesn't say, think of a better argument. He doesn't say, prove him wrong. He commands total silence.
And here's why that is so powerful. See, when you argue with someone who is trying to manipulate you, you're playing their game. You're accepting their version of reality. The second you start defending yourself, you've already lost, because you've walked right into their trap. But silence is a refusal to play. It's how you take your power back. It's a boundary they just can't get past.
And let's get one thing straight. This is not weakness. This is not being passive. It is an act of incredible strength. It's having the mental discipline to refuse to even let their toxic logic into your head. You can hear the words, you can hear the facts, but you simply don't engage with them on their terms. So in the end, this gives us a whole new way of looking at what it means to be intelligent, right? It's not always about winning the argument. Real intelligence, real wisdom, is knowing when to think and when the smartest, strongest thing you can do is just be silent.
It's the ultimate counter-strategy, a simple command that just short-circuits the entire psychological attack. Because when logic is used as a weapon, sometimes the only winning move is not to play at all.